This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 942, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you. My name is Connor Kilpatrick, and this is my co-host, Josh Flanagan.
Hey.
Josh is drugged up.
No, it's fine.
And luckily, in the third chair this week, we have Dr. Ryan Haupt to help us out because Josh may indeed just fall asleep in the middle of the episode.
I will write him a script for something to pick him back up.
I think this never happened.
Wait, can you write scripts?
No. I mean, I can. They won't be honored in any pharmacy.
We can all write them.
Mine just write. Well, I thought we hit a gold mine there for a second. Start putting medicines into the iFanboy store. Anyway, every week one of us picks the book they like the best. We call that that's probably way illegal. We read our books. We call that favorite book the pick of the week. We talk about that book, the other books of the week, the Patron Pick, listener mail. We have fun. It was a lot of books this week. We're all very tired. Here's a spoiler warning. There'll be some spoilers. Ryan, you sure you can't write scripts?
Am I sure? What do you mean, am I sure?
Okay, just making sure. You have the pick.
I think GDAT branded antidepressants would be a real hot seller.
I think we could make a fortune.
Yeah.
We just have to reincorporate in Cyprus.
Pick of the week this week was Namor number 2, no legacy numbering. I'm not going to say that didn't have a factor in making it pick, but it didn't not have a factor.
So this, I don't know if it was planned or sales or what, but now Namor is being announced, even though it's on the cover, as a miniseries. So this is not an ongoing.
I mean, I'm not shocked to hear that, but no. This is being written by Jason Aaron, and it's got 2 artists, Paul Davidson and Alex Linz. They're doing sort of dual timeline thing with colors by Niraj Menon and letters by Joey C. And this is it's a Namor book. It's a fun Imperious Rex. He was the last issue. He was in a oceanic but neath the waves prison, and he is now being sent on a mission to help stop sort of it's very Game of Thrones, War of the Five Kings. But that's actually kind of what I liked about it. I liked Jason Aaron leaning into the sort of high fantasy interwoven drama of it all. And I just thought this was a really strong issue. It did a couple of things really well. One thing it did really well was, it's Jason Aaron telling a really good, compelling story with sort of that gritty style that he became known for with Scalped. Like, especially that first scene with Namor talking to the old man on the edge of the trench. It felt very much like a conversation Daniel Badhorse or Chief Red Crow would have had with somebody living on the reservation in Scalped in a way that just really brought me into that Jason Aaron wheelhouse. And then I had a moment, and we've all been reading comics most of our lives, and I probably should have picked up on these patterns earlier in my life, but there's a moment with the young Namor storyline, which the art being done there, it really does read like a YA book. So for it to go from that sort of YA art style into the gritty, like water literally full of blood style of the modern story, I think was a really strong, visceral juxtaposition.
Was that blood or wine?
Well, they say it was wine, but there are references to the way it being. I mean, there's no grapes under the sea, so I don't know how they're making it.
Well, there's a lot of problems with what's under the sea stuff here, but I thought it was I thought the whole thing was like they were going to drunken fight, but I don't know.
Yeah. There was maybe some internal inconsistencies there, but either way, so Namor ends up meeting another girl who's also half human, half Atlantean. But she's from the Pacific. She's not from a noble line, so she doesn't have any sort of legacy or social power in this society, but they end up forming an affectionate relationship. And there was a moment in the issue where it hit me. I was like, oh, at some point in this arc, it's going to be revealed that she's the bad guy. And then it's the last page of this issue. She's the bad guy. And it was like, I was proud of myself for putting that together in the moment, and then frustrated myself of like, why have I not picked up on this pattern in comics earlier in my comic reading life? But I enjoyed it. Like, it all came together. It all was a nice.
There's nothing wrong with enjoying the story so much that you're not analyzing it in real time, that you're actually just in the story. So there's nothing wrong with that.
It's interesting because when I read comics, I don't do that a lot. I really just tend to, because I don't know if I'm focusing on sort of what's on the pages a lot more, so I'm just taking it moment by moment. TV shows and movies, like, I'll solve those fuckers immediately. And I don't even mean to, like, you recognize your patterns or whatever, but it's something about comics when I read them, I don't think that way. So I didn't think of that either. Like, you say it in retrospect, it's like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And I guess when we saw that she was on the raid, I was like, oh, I see. But for the most part, it was a surprise.
I liked this issue a lot. I liked it more than the first one. I didn't dislike the first one, but I think Josh liked it more than I did. Mostly because of the twist. Oh, not the twist, sort of the... Well, so the whole thing is like, oh, are they going to retcon Namor into being more of a socially aware justice person? Because her whole thing is she's teaching about all the poor people in Atlantis and why the policies of the king hurt the people. And he's like, oh, and I was like, oh no, because Namor is like the most arrogant, self-centered person in comics, and that's why we love him. But then, he turns and he's like, no, this is ridiculous. Order must be maintained. And then when they attack the castle and she's leading the group, he's like, well, this is fucking bullshit. And he kills everybody except her. So like, I was happy that they weren't gonna soften Namor into someone he's not. So I liked that. I was pulled in two different directions. At first I was like, oh no, they're gonna retcon Namor here, but then they didn't. So that was great. I liked that bit of a lot. I love this Alex Lin's art in the flashback. The main art, we talked about this last time. I like it more than now, but I really, really like the flashback art a lot. I think it's terrific.
I think it's a pretty tried and true, well-worn sort of technique now to sort of do. I'm sure it was done before. Was it Iron Fist? Was it David Aja? And
I think that's the first mainstream example.
Who's the other artist?
Who did the second time? I don't remember.
Brubaker.
So
it doesn't matter.
Ago.
I like it here because it they're very contrasting art styles, and I think that it's an easy thing to do, but sort of the innocence of youth and the shine of it is all a little different, and also like Alex Lin's, I think is great. Like he's great for that. Like it's so perfect. There's a thing, and I think both artists do it. Is just the thing about like that floating in the ocean. Everything is sort of floating around and is a little bit
it's unruly.
Yeah, and I think that both of those artists are doing that thing really well. I mean, I think a good example, if you're talking about I'm gonna look at the name, make sure I get it right. The Paul Davidson art is, when Namor and Atuma are in that swirling, red liquid, and I thought the same thing. I was
it's wine. He says, "Bring the wine," and he's got all the wine jugs around.
The wine, whatever. But like, I realized like, oh, this is like part of it because I was like, it's called the Crimson Swim, and so that's part of it, and it seems to be, attracting because Jason Aaron's doing it. Giant sharks. Let's respect an artist who can't not put giant sharks in his books.
Well, because after the wine, they also put chum out,
right? Yeah. So I know, but it all sort of works together.
Sharks. He loves sharks
in imagery.
I want to talk to him about that. I would like if Josh, if you ever get him on Talk Split,
I blew it.
Make sure you talk about sharks.
I just had him on.
Have him on again. Only talk about sharks for an hour.
But like, I really like the visual of that whole thing. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that before, where you have this floating liquid that obscures the art because it would be everywhere. I don't think I've ever seen that before in an underwater comic.
Also, just to clarify, those are goblin sharks.
Yeah, I did. I know. Yeah, that are horrendous.
Bentopelagic.
Goblin sharks aren't that big, are they?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Maybe down in the depths of Atlantis they are.
Well, it's already a deep water shark.
But. Yeah, it's fantasy shark shit now. Yeah. They might be big ones. We don't know anything about what's going on down there.
Jaws that shoot out of their mouths like the xenomorphs and aliens.
Ugh. So, I mean, there's the one twist, but I think the other one is a sort of misdirection of the main story because you're like, okay, this one's going to be all about the fight with Atuma. And from a structure standpoint, you thought that's going to be the thing they're setting up, and then you realize the main thrust is actually what happened in the past, and therefore how he then deals with Atuma. That you see, he has that iron resolve, and he just he tricks him. It's tricks him into getting drunk, and then beats him, and that's what you do. And Atuma's stupid and overconfident.
But to me, that like felt like something that would happen in a Game of Thrones duel, right? Like the other, one guy would get the other guy drunk, and then there was another bit of world building about how like they execute people by tying them to posts and letting the tide go out, so they
the reverse in the air. The reverse of the normal thing. Yeah, that was
like that's great. That was good.
It's almost as if the sea is rejecting them, he wrote. I remember that line. It's a good line.
This is much better. I mean, I liked the first issue, fine, but this was really good. This was a good issue. So when you picked it, I was like, okay, that makes sense. I get it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, I don't know what my pick would have been.
I don't either.
Like no
I had 25
idea.
books. I don't remember. It was all a blur.
Well, and I wasn't on the episode, but like I didn't love the second Black Panther movie.
Yeah.
And I felt like the way they did some of the world building with his friend from the Hawaiian Islands, like I thought like, oh, this is like sort of the alternate take on Atlantis. Like I didn't hate the Mayan Mesoamerican version in the movie, but it just didn't really scratch the Namor itch for me. But this, where it's like you're introducing this sort of Pacific culture to the Atlantic realm of things, I was like, this is working. This is
you can make him Mayan and Mesoamerican and still make him an asshole.
But also, it also does the way is that what we're seeing here is that Atlantis isn't necessarily a monoculture because it's huge. It goes everywhere. It's sort of like a one empire government kind of deal, but you can have different parts of it, which I think they illustrate. Seven Seas.
Because for so long, Atlantis was just a city.
Right.
It was just one place. It would be like if New York fell in the water. So it wouldn't be that sprawling, but they've sort of, and I think this is true on the other side and Aquaman too, is they've made it into a whole world-spanning underground culture as opposed to just, it used to be just this one location, and it was relatively small, so it would have been a monoculture, but anyway, it's fine. Whatever.
Yes, a monoculture, just like New York.
In the movie, I can't remember. Right. In the movie, was Namor, he wasn't half human, was he?
Yes.
Got rid of that?
I don't remember.
Right. That's fine.
It was very bad. Anyway, I enjoyed people being utterly perplexed by Wolverine Revenge #1 from Jonathan Hickman, Greg Capullo in his, I don't know if he's ever drawn for Marvel before or not. I don't know. Because it's essentially it's a Marvel Elseworlds book, but because Marvel doesn't have that branding or really do that kind of thing very often, people are used to every Marvel book being, somewhat in continuity. This is so outside the realm of continuity. I enjoyed the hell out of it, but I also enjoy people freaking out because it's just not the Marvel mindset is to do something this far sort of afield.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I liked about it was, normally when Hickman writes a book, Hickman is the star.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the story and the words and the quality of all that stuff. This feels more like he wrote this in mind of Capullo being the star, because it's not, particularly well written. There wasn't bad, but like the story didn't stand out so much as the visuals did.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt more like he was doing it for that. But they were just having a ton of fun being outside of Marvel continuity and having original Nick Fury and the mutant, back when they had the mutant
Asteroid
M, which was a while ago. Winter Soldier wasn't a thing, but he's here, and they just sort of go for it and end up killing Cap and killing Winter Soldier and killing half the planet. It's an Elseworlds book.
Maria Hill got done dirty, but otherwise this was a really fun and fantastic issue. So it was almost pick. That's why it's the second in the rundown. Although I mentioned this on a recent animated Brain Trust episode, I'm going to mention it again. Not a fan of people killing dinosaurs as if they were evil monsters. They're just animals. They're not. They have no agenda other than being animals.
Well, yeah, but if you were attacked by a bear in the woods, you would kill it.
Wolverine was riding its food.
It doesn't matter. If you're riding the bear's food and the bear attacked you, you wouldn't say, well, I guess I deserve it. You'd try to survive.
Maybe.
Nor would you think of them as in danger. They'd just be other predators around, and you'd have to...
If I had a mutant healing power where I knew I would survive and be fine no matter what, though, I might not gut them just for the sake of it.
I didn't read this, so I don't know. But isn't like an animal attacks you attack the animal? Like he's like an animal. I mean, I don't know what kind of the. But Wolverine's always had a touch of
he's
being attacked. Once, you hit him back harder.
He's being attacked by a dinosaur, so he fights back. Yeah, I mean, unless you're gonna lay down and let it kill you.
But yeah, this was great.
This was super fun. So the asteroid M comes down, and the impact kills.
Well, it was Magneto dies on asteroid M while it's like crashing, and so with the death of Magneto releases an EMP that knocks out the Western Hemisphere.
Right, but also the impact killed a bunch of people, but the whole Western Hemisphere gets knocked out of power, and so people are dying. But there's this experimental power source in Russia,
cold fusion cell.
So Nick Fury, original recipe Nick Fury, gathers together Cap and Winter Soldier and Wolverine and Dum-Dum Dugan and Maria Hill on the last 3 remaining helicarriers, because the rest of them got blown up in the EMP, or they died and crashed. and they infiltrate Russia to steal the power source, but Russia's ready with Omega Red and Sabretooth and Deadpool and his like original, bad guys, and Colossus, who's defending the motherland, and they all fight, and most of the people get killed, and I thought it was super fun. It was just like a slam bang action story, and I always enjoyed an Elseworlds book. My favorite part about it though was they subdued Wolverine, Cap, and Winter Soldier, and they sewed bombs into their chest. And they have a detonator with customized logos on the buttons. I was like, wow, if they took the time to paint the logos onto the buttons and everything, that's dedication. Dedication to the craft.
How did you feel about Colossus deciding to be loyal to Mother Russia and just say, screw you to the rest of the world?
That made sense. At that point, it becomes a zero-sum game, and if he's Russian, the whole thing is like, if you steal this power source, Russia dies. So I understand that. Yeah, makes sense to me. I mean, look, this is a heightened story of desperation, and so I get it. Like, if Colossus is your favorite X-Men, you probably didn't like it, but other way around, Russia invades the U.S. to steal the power source. Otherwise, everyone dies. Then they're also going to fight back too. So I get it.
Yep. And then the issue, I guess, spoiler warning, but the issue ends with Deadpool blows everybody up with his custom buttons, but Wolverine can heal from that. And so I guess the rest of this series is going to be him going after those who did him wrong.
Well, it's called Revenge.
Yeah.
So he looks pretty angry at the end. It's terrific Capullo. This is some of the best Capullo I've seen in a while. I really like his Wolverine. The colors from Ivan Placencia are terrific. Really bright. And I mean, he's been coloring Capullo forever.
I loved the sort of, everything after they jumped out of the helicarrier up through them getting captured. So sort of the Inception James Bond, death on skis, going through the snow sort of thing. There's a great sequence, Josh, of Cap using his shield as a snowboard and just skiing down a mountain on it. It's excellent.
Yeah, this is fun. I mean, it wasn't, there's always things you can nitpick. There's one point where when they are jumping from the helicarrier, where Cap's kind of got like a smile on his face, but like everyone has died behind him. I don't know if he'd be smiling, but it's fine. That's just
I was entirely unaware of this. Like it just didn't. I didn't notice, but that makes sense. Like if it's like a Wolverine, I gloss right over it usually. I don't remember the last time it was a good Wolverine series, so I just tend to not bother.
This might be it for you.
Well, everything. I mean, I'm reading everything, even though it's not part of the continuity. I'm checking out all the new X-Men number ones as in this new world.
Fair enough.
Standstill, written by Lee Lowridge. What?
It's a new series from Image, and you said written by Lee Lowridge with art by the incomparable Andrew Robinson. I saw that name and I got very excited. Yeah, wonderful. I don't know if underrated is the correct term or just sort of like we don't see him very often, but when we do, it's pretty spectacular.
I feel like it is because I know we hate those phrases, but he doesn't do like mainstream popular stuff. So unless you're reading these indie books,
yeah. Well, I mean, he won an Eisner for The Fifth Beatle, which was a Dark Horse book a while back. Anyway, but I will say that like a story that is written by somebody who has only ever been known for being a colorist is a red flag. And I'm sorry, Lee Lowridge is a long-time amazing colorist, but I have seen this.
One of the best.
100%. But I have seen this where a person who is not known for writing a story finally gets a chance to tell their story, and it's not great a lot of times. And so that made me not read it. But what it did mean was that when I read it, I was so much more impressed with the story because I didn't expect much out of it. I was like, this would be good looking. And what we got here was this. I mean, it's a double-sized issue, but it's all double panel spread. So it's kind of just a normal-sized issue with more pages for more art. Which, by the way, fantastic. If you're willing to draw more pages and pay to print them so that the art is bigger and more impressive, great. Same amount of story, whatever. Sounds real good to me. All right, so the conceit is that there's this guy, and he has a device. I think it's a device and not a power to stop time.
It's on his wrist. He's got it's this clunky sci-fi thing on his wrist.
Yeah, and he has we have a flashback of him using it to exact revenge for wrongs done, or maybe not. We don't really know. He seems very amoral I guess, in a way.
Well, he is. I mean, he kills the bikers because they murdered some woman, and he fucks up the guy in the plane because he's an asshole to the stewardess. Like these are all supposedly, they seem to be.
But he's not. He's not Spider-Man. He didn't take on the mantle to do good for people. It doesn't seem like. But we don't know.
We don't know what he gets out of it. So we can't say it that. Yeah.
Right, but it's not clear one way or another. It's not like I shall become a bat.
No, for sure. But right now, we don't have any reason to believe he's not doing it for good. We just don't know.
Right, and that's kind of it. That's kind of what we get to see. So, as a first, like a pretty good cold open and a little bit of the first act, and just really well done in almost all aspects.
I mean, this is one of those powers, like this ability to stop time and be able to like screw with people while time is stopped, is absolutely something I have like fantasized about.
Absolutely, everyone has. What is that show, Josh, that was on when we were kids with the girl who stopped time by touching her fingertips together?
Small Wonder.
No.
It's the same sort of
with Evie.
Zach Morris could do it on Saved by the Bell.
My God, I don't remember. Evie.
It was Evie, right?
Bling. Okay, I don't know.
Was it Burt Reynolds? Out of This World.
Out of This World. Okay.
She was an alien.
It was also in the same block as My Secret Identity.
Yes. I watched both those shows. Maureen Flanagan was the actress, and Burt Reynolds was the narrator.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I love that show, and I would think about that too, Ryan, all the time. Whenever the alarm would go off, and I had to get up, I was just thinking about being able to put my finger together like Evie, stop time, and go back to sleep. I thought about that all the time in the 80s.
I think stopping time would be my number one pick, close to my number one pick for superpowers. I often think about wanting super strength just when I see how people have parked and how they've done it wrong. And if I had super strength, I would move their vehicles and fix it.
You should have that was a patron power once, was being able to move people's vehicles.
I like that.
I thought this was terrific. I really did. I thought, obviously the art was just wonderful, but I was really impressed with the story. It's fun. It moves. It gives you information in the right way. Each little vignette, as we follow this guy around, reveals a little bit more about him. And then at the end, we see that the government is trying to find him and find the device. And there's just some scary looking dude who's going to coordinate it. Like, I thought it was very well done, very well structured. I was impressed. Like you said, Josh, we shouldn't think, just because you do one thing in comics, you can't do another. But we've been shown before that it's not always, sometimes you can. Yeah. And so when I saw Lee Overture, I was like, oh.
There is a book out right now by a person who is not known for being an artist or a writer. And we didn't talk about it on here because there's no point in maligning, but it was one of the worst comics Connor and I have read in some time. So like that's the thing. I think I'm gonna say the good thing. Like I think Jordi Belair's in a lot of comics that were pretty good, and as she sort of worked away and did the job. And there's other people, but yeah, it's kind of rare. And like the dialogue, like there's a whole story that happens in the biker bar and the sort of bait and trying to make them ragey. Yeah. It's a little cartoony, but it absolutely fits with it. It's fun. Really, I mean, it was a nice surprise.
It was. I mean, I was going to read it anyway because and I saw Andrew Robinson's name. I did a double take because I'm not used to seeing this. This is an 8-issue miniseries, in case anyone's wondering. So it's probably if the format stays, it'll be like 16 issues worth of comic. But I thought this was a really fun sci-fi story, and I was very happy with it. It's interesting. I'm very curious to see where it goes.
Me too.
And so Nightwing 111, the second to last issue of the Tom Taylor era, featuring Bruno Redondo on art. We get a classic comic book origin retcon. And here it's revealed that, in fact, his parents were not the target of the sabotaged trapeze equipment. It was, in fact, Dick himself. And that was the knowledge that was holding Dick back from soaring in the sky once again. So once he was able to face that, he was able to jump from the mountaintop.
So are you mad about this at the very end of your favorite series?
I didn't love it, but I thought about it, like this is sort of the classic move. Sometimes.
Well done.
I think about the fact that back when you read comics and they were just a fun thing to do, you didn't really overanalyze them. You just kind of took these things as they came, and these kind of things happened all the time.
Sure.
But now that we're all reading them as adults instead of children, and we analyze them too much, some might say we get more annoyed. And so I'm trying to be more zen about they're not super changing it. The Zuko's are still behind it. It's just that he was for some reason the target. do I love it? No. Is it the worst thing in the world? Also no. Like, it's fine. It's not. It's fine. It's not like Bruce's origin where you really can't make them a target. It's the
randomness.
The randomness makes it the tragedy. Whereas for Dick, they were always a target. He's just changing who the target was. So it doesn't really radically change it in my mind. So that's where I'm at.
How'd you feel about Night Bruce Wing?
I loved it. I liked how Bruno, drew him as a stockier, bulkier Nightwing who moved so very differently while in costume. Like, there's the scene where he's kicking the door in on the rooftop, and he just looks like a big, bulky dude as opposed to Nightwing. I liked that a lot.
That whole scene, that first page where he shows up was just great. I patrolled each night. The suit is snug. I quipped twice. I love, and I don't know that I don't think this is the first time it's ever been done, but the idea of Bruce and Dick as being peers,
right?
Like I've graduated, you're my equal. I really like that. There's enough wards, like he's graduated. He's able to. He's
still his son. He's still
yes, absolutely,
adopted, and he's the son. But they're more like peers because of the nebulous comic book aging process.
You'd let him run the family business without reserve. I'd
let him babysit my plants. I'd let Dick do a lot of things.
I gotta say him sitting on that crag and I love Dead Man, by the way. Just not a lot, but enough. And just him sitting on that crag, like there's no other way to get down but jump, and you think, oh crap, he didn't make it. He's not gonna, it was fun. It was just real good.
Yeah, this is great. And the
Bruno Redondo's crazy.
He's
stupid.
He's leveled way up. Like we talked about this when we talked about his stuff on Injustice, and it was good, but it wasn't this. And so he's on performance enhancing drugs. I don't know what he did, but he's on something where he leveled up very quickly.
I heard Tom Taylor took him to the Himalayas and put him up on a ledge.
That also might have happened.
He might need to stop it.
He couldn't come down off the ledge until he learned to jump.
Guy out of nowhere, he's out here doing this, and it's like, what are you doing? Stop it, dude. It's too much.
I think it would be very funny if when Nightwing tries to put the suit back on, it's too big, like it's been stretched out. In fact, I thought that'd be funnier than him saying it. Like, it's snug. It would have been funnier just to be like, here's the suit, and he puts it on. It's like, this is all floppy everywhere. Josh, I'm just scrolling through this book, and it's just wonderful. I think we also need to call out Adriana Lucas coloring is terrific.
100%.
It goes perfectly with Bruno Redondo.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is I was on I don't remember what issue it was. I guess they say right here in the footnotes, Nightwing 105. We discussed on this show, why did Nightwing take the glass of water? That was a bad call.
Right.
We said it in the moment on that issue, and it turns out it was the inciting incident for all of the problems that he's working to solve in this issue. So
I do want to mention, was it last week, Josh, we talked about, it was Bob Quinn being overcolored.
Uh-huh.
This is the style.
Yes.
There's 3D shading, but it's not overly shaded. It's more a stylistic 3D shading. It doesn't try to paint on too many muscles or too many shadows. It gives everything structure. It gives everything texture, but it's more flat. And this is how Bob Quinn should have been colored.
It's kind of a digital watercolor with a pastel to it. And there's the bits that have dot pitch, and you're right. That. I mean, this is what it looked like. God, that page where he, bursts through the window, and it's the hero pose in the last one, where the hero pose is completely overdone, but with his little arms all bandaged up and his long hair, it's cool as shit.
He's Grant Morrison Nightwing here.
Yeah,
just in his jeans and boots. Yeah, I mean, sad to see them go. Not super thrilled by
Bruce has his suit. On. By the way, that indicates that there's only one suit.
Yeah, you think he'd have a couple. He had $1 billion, or however billions of dollars. That's.
I mean, maybe there was a cut scene that Bruno Redondo drew, of course, but we didn't see, where he looks in the case and he sees the one with the giant flared collar and the disco belly dive, and was just like, nah. I'll just
next time.
I'll just wear. Yeah.
What did
Rhodey? Rhodey said next time.
Yeah. Next time, baby.
Do you
That's
think
what
that
he
he
should've said.
picks the suit up after Bruce is done with it? And he's like, what did you do to the crotch of this thing? And Bruce just shrugs.
That would get the book canceled. Don't do that, Josh. That's what
Yeah,
happened
Brian
last
Hasbro
time.
already tried that.
Last time we draw any attention to Bruce's junk, it got to get the book canceled.
I'm just saying, there's no way it's not impressive. Like to
Ad-
just objectively impressive.
I was say that was the perfect spot for an ad break.
Dark Knights of Steel, Allwinter, Chapter 2, the sort of not quite a follow-up to the Dark Knights of Steel book that we all love. This new story is by Jay Kristoff, and it's set in the Northlands, or the lands of always winter, or it's Viking stuff. It's medieval DC Vikings with Deathstroke, and I think what's going to be revealed to be Alan Scott, and it took... This book has, I mean, obviously the previous iteration of this was a fantasy book, but this almost takes an even more mystical take on things, where it's the book is in black and white, but the characters also seem to know that it's in black and white.
Yeah, the world is in black and white, which is what every kid thinks is the case when they watch old movies.
Like Pleasantville?
Yeah, the world's in black and white because was there a magical spell? There were 25 books this week, so every detail is not in my brain, but I think he said something of somebody cast a spell and took the color away, and or something. That could be wrong. That could be a movie I saw, but I didn't even think of the Alan Scott thing. But you're totally right.
I think that's who they're hinting the kid is.
Yeah, that would make sense. And then the backup story is more of a straight prequel to the original story, which we see the sort of the beginnings of the L's kingdom.
Yeah, and I read both the backup stories, and the backup story is actually written by Tom Taylor, and I like it less than the main story. The main story here, I'm quite compelled by. I like a Viking story. I like a wintertime story. I was literally telling Josh before we started recording, I'm already itching for ski season. So give me some snow. Let's get out in the...
I agree with you. I like them both. I think the Viking one is the more compelling one at the moment. I think it's terrific. I think is it the artist named Tirso? Is that what it is? I think the art's terrific. The coloring really works because it's storytelling driven. It's very much a Deathstroke story. His whole family is involved. Rose is here.
It's like Deathstroke as like Odin almost. Like he's old, he's grizzled, he's got like a beard and long hair and
eye patch.
Yeah, so I've never been this compelled by a depiction of Deathstroke as a character before.
Well, what's interesting is, and I know we've got to move on, but the family stuff is still the same. Like all of these arguments, we've seen them in the regular Deathstroke continuity, at least the before times. Neglecting his sons, having tragic ends. His oldest son got killed, his second son became Jericho, and then Rose being the one he sort of tried to make amends with, and she just ends up becoming a mini version of him. Like I think these are all things that have happened in the main books, but to recontextualize them as Viking lore and put enough interesting mystical magic stuff in there that keeps it feeling different, I thought that's sort of the strongest way you can go. And I thought I really liked it. This is a very good book. Another Elseworlds comic. Good times. Elseworlds all over the place.
So Usagi Yojimbo, The Crow, #1 was pick of the week. It's not a lot of Usagi Yojimbos that actually make pick of the week. So this was #5, which is the last one in the story, and I just thought this was a dang fine Usagi Yojimbo story. There's a bandit, everyone's chasing them. Usagi and his young ward, whose name I don't remember, like team up with the bounty hunters, and then they team up with another fallen samurai who's become a bounty hunter, but also sort of leads a gang of criminals. And his honor has been like he realizes like too late his honor is gone, and he gives the young guy his sword. Whole thing, just another great Usagi Yojimbo story.
Oh, this was great.
Yeah,
I'm going through to jog my memory. It's like, oh right. Yeah. And what made it great was, and first of all, this is Usagi Yojimbo number 279 by the legacy numbering. What made it great was that one Ronin dog,
stray dog. Yep.
Seems like he's an asshole, but they reveal only to us, not to Usagi, that he actually is a patron of a orphanage, and all the money he makes being a Ronin, he brings it back to this orphanage, and he pays for everything. And he also brought the kid who we met in the story to the orphanage, who was alone, And he ends up, he's actually kind of a great guy.
Yeah, but the thing is like, so Usagi just is like, you're terrible, you have no honor or whatever, and Usagi's our good guy. He's the one who has, but because these I was gonna say these guys, these animals don't, it's not part of their code to say, what they feel or defend themselves or whatever. He just sort of accepts it and moves on because he knows that he's doing the right thing. And you have that great little coda there. It's not everything is what you think. Usagi's not always right.
Right, because we're trained to think that Usagi's always right.
Right.
Right. So if he yells at this guy and calls him an asshole, we think, yeah, you are an asshole, stray dog. And then we find out, no,
we got a preview of that at some point.
Yeah.
I think with Stray Dog. Stray Dog's been around for a while too.
If you had to pick and this had been your pick, I would have been fine with it.
Yeah, I thought it was wonderful.
This was a wonderful issue.
I love Usagi Yojimbo. I just fell behind on this, and so I wasn't caught up.
That's fine. That's fine.
I would. There's a possibility that at this point, this is like my favorite ongoing series. This is the one I get most excited about when a new issue comes out.
It's in your top 5.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I just think I don't think it can be said often enough what a treasure Stan Sakai is to comics, both modern and historic. Like
he's an all-time great. Speaking of sharks, Redcoat number 5. Josh, I was thinking when I was about halfway through this book, I was like, we often joke about how books are written just for us, but like, how many other people are enjoying this but us?
I really do go back and forth in a little bit where I was like, I don't know if I really like this. And then like in the middle of it, and it happened at the end of this one, at the very end, again, there's a turn, there's kind of not super obvious, but no shit. Like if you look at it after the fact.
Well, yeah, that's how I felt. I was gearing up to believe it. Like they're like the whole time, which was revealed in the last issue, supposedly the big bad of the book is George Washington. And I'm like, okay, the closest thing we have to, a deity in America where so it turns out he's the evil bad guy this whole time. He's going to burn the country down. He's part of these mystical cults, which he was in real life. Like he is the bad guy. And I was like, that is hard to say as an American, but I'm going to go with it. Yeah. It's interesting. And then they reveal, no, actually, Benedict Arnold, who told the story to the Redcoat dude, is the actual bad guy. And I went, well, of course.
Yeah.
And that's
where were the sharks?
On the cover.
I read the issue and I didn't see any.
The cover.
I didn't see any sharks.
That's it. Like you really have to. You can't be beholden to the history in this.
No.
And as such, like you just have to. Like it's a little overwritten, and because it's Brian Hitch, it's a little overdrawn. And I don't really mean either of those things in a bad way. It's just like that.
We got a whole history of Johnny Appleseed in here.
Yeah, we did.
I loved it.
Like part of me doesn't like it, and part of me loves it. And I don't know. I can't. I keep reading it. It's not like I'm like when I start. I'm like I don't know if I like this. And at the end, I'm like, all right, yeah, we're gonna keep reading this.
And Patrick Henry died. So like the whole thing was these immortal guys can't leave the country, but
it's what was the Zdarsky book? It's
I was gonna say American Gods, but
the book Stillwater.
Oh, and so yes. Patrick Henry went out in his rowboat to save someone who was drowning, and he went too far. He passed the 12-mile line or whatever it is.
Well, they said he built a Chesapeake, which is entirely contained. That's a bay, like it's entirely contained.
He went into international waters.
There's no international waters on the Chesapeake Bay. It goes from
he left from there.
Goes from Maryland to
does it
Virginia.
Not connect to the Atlantic in any way.
What did I just say about the what you have to think about this in terms of reality? You cannot.
I mean, I want the reality of a map to still exist.
Nope. This is also, it's 18 whatever. I don't know what the rules were then.
I like this book. I don't know that it's a good book.
I think that's exactly
But
correct.
I like it. Oh, boy. What's next? Oh, Huge Detective. I did not read this.
Huge Detective is from Titan Books. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I saw the title. And
sounds like an SNL skit.
Yeah, I mean, that's very much what I thought. I was like, do you remember?
This would have been a Phil Hartman sketch in 1987.
Do you remember
Huge
Tiny
Detective.
Elvis?
Yes, I do remember
Tiny Elvis. Was Nick Cage.
Look at this belt.
That's all he would do. It was Nick Cage's Elvis. He would just go, man, look at that. That's huge, man. So maybe that was it. But the cover is like,
was
there's
the
a
show
woman.
better when they were on cocaine? I think maybe. All right.
Well, that was late. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
They
from
were
drugs.
definitely on cocaine in the 80s for sure.
Yeah, I think that was 90s.
I mean, the 70s, we know that, but yeah.
Sure. No, actually, I think that like the cast that we grew up with, like those guys, I think they were all kind of nerds. I think I remember one of them saying that, like the
Possibly.
Carvey.
But the writers I'm
whatever.
talking about.
Sure. Anyway, so Huge Detective. This is from right. How do you not? You must not have seen it because
I had
Huge
25
Detective,
books. I was not.
And there's a big hand
in the business of reading more books.
So we have this story where the Giants woke up. There was a lot of consternation about that and some fighting, and eventually we gave the Giants Australia, and everybody else had to move.
Makes
and
sense.
They came to
Seems
a fragile
reasonable.
peace. So now it's like Giants are there. We've got to live with them. They've got to live with us. There are cultural issues in here, and a lot of really good world building in this book. And they're basically it's not unlike like Black Cloak, where there's a giant who lives on the earth, on the human side, and he's a detective. Like I'm not quite sure. I think he's in their police, and they have to bring him in for a thing, and
right.
And the woman doesn't really want to work with a giant, and there's a lot of imaginative and interesting cultural things that happen. The giants aren't used to talking because they're used to being telepathic, and a lot of giants won't talk, and this guy does, but it makes him really tired.
What's the creative team?
It's Adam Rose and Magenta King on story and art. At one point, this writer reached out to me on Instagram, and I completely ignored it because that's what I do when people reach out to me about it. And I was like, and I went back and I was like, oh, actually, this was a really good book, because I was like, listen, I'm not promising to read it, whatever it is, and I think it's worth checking out.
Did you tell them that, or did you just
a little raw? No, I don't tell anybody what I'm going to say about it until the show goes out.
So what you're saying is you blew them off, and now.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. But I don't, he did the work, reached out, or whatever. It's just that I hate it when people reach out to me. Just nothing wrong. No, but like you got to do your job. Like that's
only
the thing.
Talk to Josh through a lawyer. That's what I've been saying for years.
Yeah. Well, after what happened before, no, but great title, great hook, strong world building. The art's good. Fine. I think it does that scale thing really, really well. I could be down with more of that. And I think the world is interesting.
This does sound good. It does sound good.
Yeah. So
all right, fine.
Huge Detective. Come on.
If they have Huge Detective meet Tiny Elvis, then
the fact that it's Huge Detective and what it's about is a huge detective. Like huge, like stories high.
It's a throwback title. Having the title exactly match what you see in the book is sometimes some of a throwback now these days.
I believe the regular humans refer to them as huges. Like that's their derogatory term for the giants.
So last week we had Star Wars Corner, right? Was that last week?
Yeah.
Darth Vader. So now you're really pushing it 2 weeks in a row.
I didn't put this on here.
All right.
Well, this is the penultimate issue of this run on the Star Wars books. This is Star Wars 49. It's being written by Charles Soule still. And I kind of was catching up on this book a little bit this week. And so I read a bunch of issues, and I kind of had the thought while I was reading, I was like, man, it feels like these characters are getting close to where we would transition from being a post-Empire story to a Jedi.
Well, isn't that what they do? Every volume is between a movie, so that makes sense.
It is, but I thought it was well done on Charles Soule's part that I intuited that, where I was like reading this book being like, I feel like the characters are about where they're at when Jedi starts, and then this issue ends with them very clearly setting up, the final issue where they're going to lead into Jedi.
Although he still has a yellow lightsaber at the end of this.
I've not liked that at any point in this run. I don't think Luke should have had a lightsaber this entire time.
It's far too urine-sickle for me. It reminds me too much of a big old pea icicle.
Yep. Which happened on one of the early.
I was trying to figure out what urine sickle was, and I was
maybe it happened on the shuttle. The space shuttle had a urine sickle on it once.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The yellow lightsaber, that's a thing, right? I mean, that's
but we can talk about it versus seeing.
Oh no, I'm just saying that's
we don't know
in the lore.
There will be some time in between the time where they decide to go get Han to him getting that. We got one issue left. It was pointed out. I last time, Connor, you said, "Well, wait, are we at 50 issues?" I said, "Oh, there was a certain number, and they switched volumes, and now a certain number." Both of these books are at 50 issues. Star Wars and Darth Vader in total of those two sort of separated runs. I think they're having their cake and eating it too on the numbers here again. And I guess that was the plan: was you'd do 50 issues between, Empire and Jedi.
Each movie. Yeah.
Wait, yeah.
Each movie, 50 issues between each movie.
Yeah. Or wait, was the first 25 between Star Wars and Empire? No.
No, I think they reset the volume. I think they redid the numbering.
Right. So the yellow lightsaber first appeared in Tales of the Jedi in 1993.
Wow.
And then...
But not with Luke.
No, Tales of the Jedi, so it was the Old Republic.
Well, no, it's okay for other people to have yellow lightsabers, just not him.
Okay. All right.
And we know he's already got a green kyber crystal, because that's been established in earlier issues.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point he's got to lose the lightsaber and find another one really quickly.
No, he's going to... He builds the green lightsaber himself.
I know, not find him. He's going to get another one real quickly.
No, he's already got the kyber crystal for it. He just needs to assemble it.
He hasn't built it. What I'm saying is he's going to lose a lightsaber and get another one.
There's a cut scene from Return of the Jedi, Connor. It was originally called Revenge of the Jedi. I don't know if you knew that. But
yes, I'm aware. I was alive when they came out. Let's move on, for God's sakes, to the patron pick. Every one of our patrons at patreon.com/iFanboy can vote to add a book to the rundown. And this week, amongst all the choices, the overwhelming favorite was Jenny Sparks, #1, from DC's Black Label, written by Tom King with art and colors by Jeff Spokes and letters by Clayton Cowles, as we would always expect. Okay.
I love this.
We have a spectrum.
I really enjoyed this. I would say it was nearly pick, or it was in the running to be pick. I'm a huge fan of the original Authority books, Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch, and then going into Mark Miller and Frank Wiley. This to me totally scratched that itch, but it did it within the context of the DC universe better than I think any of the... There were a bunch of books when the Wildstorm universe was first sort of resorbed into DC that I think Josh and I really did our best to give a shot, and just none of them really worked. And
before we get in, I do want to say, I don't know who Jeff Spokes is, but he's terrific. I thought the art was great. I thought it had like a Ryan, what's his name, quality. Why can't I think of things?
Otley?
No, not Otley.
I know who he's talking about. Hang on.
No.
Ryan, who's younger and his brain is more malleable, will find that name. And I thought,
Ryan Sook.
From a craft standpoint, it's a good comic. My problem is I don't buy any of these characters interacting with DC. Like when Ryan, you just said this feels like this does not feel like a DC universe to me that I recognize at all whatsoever.
It's Black Label.
I understand that, but like it doesn't work. These characters being together don't work. They represent such a different ethos. It doesn't work. It's like when they had to try to make Manchester Black a character, it's like it doesn't work. They live on their own.
Real quick though, do you think that you're just mad because you weren't mentioned?
No. Okay. I just assume I'm the boss, the unmentioned boss.
I mean, Tom also mentioned that you're prickly about Ron, Josh.
Which is true. That's fair.
Okay, there's a bit of a name check in here, but basically it says Ron is the priority, or else Josh is going to throw a fit. That to me says that I'm like his agent. I'm responsible for him, and I need you to take care of him, because otherwise I'm going to have to deal with a fucking monster.
Well, I couldn't figure out if this guy was supposed to be an agent or supposed to be business affairs,
something like that. So it's interesting that occurred to me as I was reading this that. This character was created by Warren Ellis, the spirit of the 20th century, and I was like, she said something here like, well, yeah, it was the spirit of the 20th, and then I stuck around for a while, and I was like, that's right, you shouldn't be here anymore.
Right, and she's 124. She should be.
Wasn't that
dead 24
end?
Years ago? Yeah,
didn't she die?
She died at the end of Planetary. Yeah,
she did die. Her last words were the opening words of the. Opening words of the chapter, she said, "Save the world, they deserve it. Be better, or I'll come back and kick your heads in."
Right. I thought it was a pretty good rendition of Jenny Sparks.
And then there was a Jenny Quantum who was introduced.
She was the next one. Jenny Quantum
who was supposed to be the spirit of the 21st century.
That's a who gives a fuck. But in terms of people writing a Warren Ellis character. I thought it was done pretty well. People can't do that. Like, if you ask me, like, the idea of, the person who polices the supers and is bigger, I don't need her. Like, it's not like a thing that we were crying out to have. But if we're going to tell a story, we're going to tell a story in Black Label. Let's put these toys together and see how they mesh. I'm fine with that experiment. That's fun, whatever. And you've got. I'm interested to see what Tom does with this. I think, as you said, I think it's the right artist for this kind of thing. Did I want it? No. Did I love it? No. But I'll be okay. Let's see what happens.
Well, that's interesting because the Spectrum isn't that Spectrum-y. I didn't think it was a bad comic. I just don't like the whole integration. It never works for me. None of these characters interacting work for me.
But it is not the same as. I mean, you can not like it as a story, but this isn't the DC universe right now. This is Black Label.
Oh no, I'm just saying just the interaction doesn't work. I mean, like I said, it's a very well done comic. I thought the writing was strong. I thought the art was terrific. I liked the characters where all these characters were coming together in this one bar in Los Angeles. Tom, who we know has been spending a lot of time in LA in the last few months, has clearly picked up on the vibe. Having them all converge and having Captain Atom be the villainous center point. Wasn't there a Captain Atom in the Wildstorm universe situation a while back?
There was.
Where they tried putting him in the Wildstorm
the first
universe?
DC to Wildstorm crossover was a Captain Atom story. It was called Captain Atom Armageddon, I want to say, where he got caught in a nuclear explosion and ported over into the Wildstorm universe and dealt and interacted with the Authority and Majestic and all those guys. Majestic, I don't think they brought over at all. I don't know if there was a rights issue or anything like that.
As well as they shouldn't have.
So you've got a judge, you've got this Hollywood guy, you've got an old man. We follow through the whole issue, and they all end up at this one bar where Captain Atom walks in after causing all kinds of mayhem across Los Angeles and even supposedly killing Jenny Sparks in the fight. So it seems like, I mean, I like the concept, I like the story, I like it all. I just don't. These characters appearing together never work for me because one group is a commentary on the other. It's like when Squadron Supreme shows up, and I never find that interesting.
Yeah, I understand that. I gotta say something. I don't understand Captain Atom. I don't know what he's supposed to be. I don't feel like I've seen him enough to get an idea of that character. I know he's been around a really long time. Is he always a loose cannon kind of thing, or is it
he's whatever they need him to be?
No,
I know, but even if is he still around in the normal books?
He's there. He's always in the background of a big scene or something.
No one knows who he is, though, because no one's itching to do the Captain Atom story.
Well, he's the Dr. Manhattan character.
But that's exactly what I was going to say, actually, is one of the things I found interesting in the comics recently is how the Charlton characters who now have existed in DC for a long time, how they've started sort of seemingly gotten reinterpreted in sort of I want to give credit to the Watchmen TV show, the HBO series. Like in the post-HBO Watchmen series world, well, I guess the Peacemaker show obviously brought Peacemaker to the forefront. And so it's been interesting. It's been interesting to me seeing how the Charlton characters have sort of reasserted their primacy, and to do Captain Atom as sort of a Dr. Manhattan guy unstuck in time. What would the being unstuck in time do to somebody with the brain of a military man who just wants to, play by the rules and follow orders?
This might be him at his most Dr. Manhattan-y.
Yeah.
So far.
Which makes sense considering Tom King's love of Alan Moore and Watchmen and the format of Watchmen. It makes sense that this story would feature a very Dr. Manhattan, stuck in time, slipping through time character. But, if people not know, he's the Charlton analog that they turned into Dr. Manhattan for Watchmen. If they had used the characters as they meant to have originally, then he would have been the big character in that book. I like a lot of this. I didn't dislike it. It's more of a foundational problem.
I understand.
It's Jenny Sparks bantering with Batman. It doesn't make sense to me.
You don't like it when a saxophone player comes out and plays with a punk band. It might be great. It's weird. They shouldn't be there.
That's called ska, and it's awesome, Josh.
That's true.
That really
depends. Genre out there.
That really depends on the format of the beats and how it plays.
We all like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones in the 90s.
I think you guys just picked the music for this episode.
Anyway,
the museum.
Everyone hates Dickie Barrett now, and the Boston's fired him.
At the time, it doesn't matter. At the time, it was great.
I understand. So one of the things that Tom said to me the last time we had one of them shows is he said one of the things he's working on is getting away from his crutches as a writer. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And he specified the 9-panel grid as sort of a thing that, he knows if he works within that, he's doing, he kind of understands, like it's you do it that way, and he sort of got, developed that. And what's really interesting about this is there's a first page is like a single splash, kind of just of an ashtray and some narration. Second page is a classic 9-panel grid, and then after that you're out. Like the rest of it isn't that.
There's only at least one instance of it. There might be other ones, but yeah, they're not very many.
But
and the original Authority books by Ellis and Hitch kind of, they were some of the first like quote unquote widescreen comics, right? Where it was like a lot of big double page spreads. There's a
lot of big panels.
Yeah, a lot of big panels.
And the idea here being just for me is like, okay, being aware that he said that and then sort of putting a couple in there. It's interesting to sort of see, all right, well, what's the intention here? What's the thing that you're doing? And I don't know that I know that answer, but it's just a thing I noticed. It was kind of interesting to watch. There's a really cool, if you look on, it's probably more of the artist than anything. Let's see, page 26. There's a couple of broken panel things in here that aren't in other stuff, but there's one where the coroner, I guess, like lifts up the sheet right before they reveal Jenny under the sheet, and he's breaking the panel in an interesting way. Just little bits, because there's not a lot of that in here. So when you notice it, it sort of stands out. I always want to hope that there's some plan to doing things like that, and it's not just somebody going, looks cool here, because I feel like you have to do it thematically. But I don't know. That's the only panel break in there.
We'll see. I'm certainly going to keep reading it, jumping the gun on the last question, because it just looks so great, and I am always happy. Even a Tom King book like Rorschach, where in the beginning we were a little head scratching, confused, it ended up being really good at the end. So I'm really curious to see what happens.
This also ends in like a hostage story, and I mean, I'm at Dog Day Afternoon is one of the greats. Like I love a hostages story, hostage negotiator, all that, and to have the hostage taker being a walking atomic bomb it's kind of cool.
Right.
It's a really good depiction of the character of Jenny Sparks. It's just something about the way that she's drawn that goes with her character more than drawing like a cute, young, sexy girl. Like she's got a different vibe here that I think works really well. Just her weird bone structure and everything. It feels like I don't know, that's almost like a Quitely face, even though the art doesn't look like Quitely.
I will mention that
she's a Tom Rainey character.
LA cops don't wear hats like that. For the most part, they just don't wear hats.
Well, it's not cool.
It's not like New York
They
cops.
might also get spotted by agents too.
I'm just saying, New York cops wear those hats. LA cops don't really wear those hats.
Would you rather see the wrong police hat or bad pizza? Now, as the
I'm
book
just saying,
takes
what is
place
the
in LA,
editor doing? What are we doing here,
pizza
editor?
Would be bad.
Who's the editor? There's a couple of good pizza places.
I could easily see if you had a book that was set in Los Angeles and all the pizza looked wrong in the comic book, that could be a valid choice.
Because you're saying the pizza in Los Angeles is wrong?
The pizza in Los Angeles, the people don't know about pizza, what to do with it.
It'd be like someone eating a burrito in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Just doesn't make sense.
There are people who can cook good burritos in New York. It doesn't.
And there's good pizza in LA. It just depends on. It's not the same. It's not the same as New York. And
to me, the difference between the West Coast burrito and the East Coast burrito is it's not. It has to do nothing with the cooking. It's structural, which I think is probably similar for the pizza. Like there's structural issues.
Which is ironic because most of the time LA is known for the fusion and the deconstruction of food stuff, and New York, the opposite. But here
I'm a NorCal Mission burrito guy.
Okay, so. we can't. There's no time for this. Then we're going to
talk
ratings. It's pretty important.
Ratings on Jenny Sparks #1. Ratings out of 5.
4.5.
Oh,
I really like this.
Josh,
4.
I'll go 3.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The Authority is one of the books that got me back into comics. Like
Authority is a great book. It's not a commentary on the Authority. I love the Authority.
Did you feel like you wanted more Authority, and that's why we're here?
I feel like I wanted less Batman.
I was talking to Ryan, but that's fine.
The Authority's on the cover. they're back in the background.
I mean, you're right. They should have never brought the Authority into this. Never. If you want to do Authority Wildstorm stuff, go for it. I've tried every single bit of it. Some of it has been palatable. Some of it has been enjoyable. I think that there were bits where I don't remember what the book was. And I thought the Midnighter was sort of involved with Gotham, and that kind of
There was
worked.
it was Superman where they went to War World. Midnighter was one of the people.
Yeah. I liked that. Again, Apollo shouldn't exist in a place with Superman, just like you said. Hyperion shouldn't exist in the Marvel universe, but obviously that's no one's going to pay attention to that thing. But whatever. If people are going to play around with it, give it a shot. Oh, and Matt Rosenberg wrote a lot of okay Wildstorm.
And you liked
books.
that Wildstorm book? What was it called? The
Wildstorm?
The
That was
Wildstorm.
by Warren Ellis.
And that was also not set in the DC universe.
Yeah, it was really, exactly.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron gets to vote to add a book to the rundown, but the patrons who are generous and give it the $5 or higher level, they get a superpower live on the show. And this week, this is an awesome name. I hope it's his real name. I hope you have awesome hippie parents.
That's right. And that person is Dungeon Miller, literally DM a dungeon DM.
Interesting.
Right? Think about that. I reached out. I got a little help when I reached into like my mind palace to find what this power was. I got a little help from my buddy Abe, and the power that Abe helped me manifest is Dungeon Miller has both a blessing and a curse, as many of these powers are, in that any surface, so like wall, floor, ceiling, whatever, less than a quarter-inch thick, he not only can phase through, but cannot stop himself from phasing through. So he is intangible to surfaces below a certain thickness.
Wait, I'm confused. So he can't stay where he is ever?
So like, no, he's not able to be against or push on a solid surface that is thinner than X.
A quarter-inch. Yeah. So like if he leaned up against a fence that was like 1 quarter-inch plank wide, he would just fall through that fence.
Like he would probably get stuck on the studs.
I think that's I hadn't considered that potential outcome, but as long as he's standing on something solid enough that he doesn't go through it, he's fine. But he can, if he wants to find surfaces that he can go through, like I feel like there's a potential to use this power for good or for ill if he's able to determine the thickness of walls and objects that secure important things. But yeah, he has a uncontrollable intangibility against surfaces of a certain thickness or below a certain thickness.
What if
sounds terrible for
you
him.
have drywall and then underneath that is like brick? Because he goes through the drywall and then the brick stops you.
Yes, but then it would just be like he could just lift himself up off the brick and the drywall would still be intangible to him. So there wouldn't be like an ill effect that would happen.
Or is the wall considered as a whole?
Only if it's solid all the way through. If there's an air gap.
I'm saying, like, what if there's like a layered effect? Like the top is these things are sandwiched together.
Yeah, you've got different materials.
If they're sandwiched together and it's all like physically connected to one another, then I think it all constitutes a thickness that he can't penetrate. But if there's like an air gap, like if it's drywall and then there's a gap and then there's brick, he could fall into the gap and then push himself back out off the brick. He wouldn't be like stuck there. But the drywall would be as if it didn't exist to him.
Well, it sounds like Dungeon Miller is trapped in the dungeon of Ryan's power.
I hope he can master it. Roll for tangibility.
Thanks for being a patron, Dungeon. Patreon.com/iFanboy. And very quickly, because we're long, Patreon.com/iFanboy is the best way to help. You get to be in cool communities. There's the Patron Hangout. There's tier exclusive merchandise. You get the thank you page. There's all kinds of things happening there. Go check it out. There's 10% off if you sign up for a full year. Fanboy.threadless.com is our t-shirt store. Fanboy.com/support is our PayPal tip jar. Fanboy.com/Amazon is where you can shop. There's a general shopping link as well as Booksplode links. Bookshop.org is our partner to help out local bookstores. I literally just bought a book today using bookshop.org. So help them out, help us out. We appreciate it. Helps keep the lights on. And thank you very much. Now, I know we discussed this before the show. We're a little bit long, but I think we can get this question done quickly, actually, because it relates to what we just talked about. Wes from Fridley, Minnesota. I spent a good hour thinking about DC animation earlier, and 2 questions popped into my head. Question 1: Why was there never a Green Arrow or Flash animated movie during the popular CW shows, or an Aquaman one to capitalize on the success of the first film? Question 2. Would there be any value in Warner Brothers making animated projects based on Wildstorm or Vertigo properties? I'd love to see a We 3 animated film or a Sleeper animated series. Now, first question is quicker. That's bizarre. I think this Ryan and I are Animated Brain Trust members. Josh is an adjunct, occasionally appears.
It's why we pay him so little.
That's right. It is a little weird that there's never a Green Arrow Flash animated film. However, weren't they doing those Seed animated shows that were tied into that world? Remember those?
I don't remember those.
There was these Seed shows. I don't even know if the CW Seed was like. I don't know. Was it a streaming service? I don't know what it was, but they had these shows that lived in the in the CW world. They made animation tie-ins for them. They just weren't released as part of the DC Universe animated original line of films. They were these own separate things, whatever the hell CW Seed was. I do, and yeah,
I'm looking it up. I do remember this now.
I do think it's weird they never made an Aquaman one, considering the first Aquaman film made $1 billion. That is weird to me. They made one Aquaman movie, but it was called Justice League, wasn't it? Justice League, like something of Atlantis. And that was basically an Aquaman movie. But that is a little strange that movie made $1 billion.
Justice League Throne of Atlantis. We liked that one.
Right. But I'm just saying that was the Aquaman one. It's just strange they didn't brand it, considering how popular that first film was. You would have thought they would have done it. Side note, fun fact, I still have not seen the sequel, even though I really liked that first film. But 2, here's the interesting question. So, is there any value in Warner Brothers making animated projects based on Wildstorm or Vertigo properties? I'd love to see a We 3 animated film or a Sleeper animated series.
Well, I think to answer that, my answer to that question about the Green Arrow and the Flash is that, like, it seemed like every other movie during that period, and still to some extent, every other movie had to be a Batman movie. And so you only had like one movie a year that was open to anything that wasn't just strictly a Batman movie. And so
right, and they have the sales data, so they know if that's why the strategy or not.
Yeah, it just seemed like there wasn't a lot of. I think part of the reason they also didn't do it was there wasn't a lot of room in the production calendar to squeeze in anything that wasn't.
Or like in the beginning, it was, as we talked about a lot of times on those shows, like they had a Wonder Woman movie, they did a Green Lantern movie. No, those movies didn't sell very well supposedly, so they stuck with what did, which was Justice League and Batman, and that's kind of what they did. So, and even when they didn't, like the Aquaman movie, they retitled it Justice League. Although there was that random Legion of Superheroes movie that should have been Supergirl. None of it made any sense. Back to the second question. In the way that this question is phrased, at this very moment in time, there's no value in it. How many people know what Sleeper is? 100,000, maybe? It would sell terribly. However...
That's what everyone said when Marvel announced Guardians of the Galaxy.
It was already part of a long-running, successful shared universe. Now,
it had famous people in it.
Yeah. One of the announced films from James Gunn's DC Studios is The Authority. So my whole problem with The Authority being the DC is going to get writ large all over the screen. In fact, I think some of the characters are in the Superman film. But after that, there might be some value in it, depending on how that goes. But right now, there isn't, because no one knows who those characters are. But maybe after if an Authority movie actually happens.
So, couple things, like, because I can't speak to this. Value, that's a very malleable term.
Yeah, value is sure.
So
value, great.
Could they make a cool Authority or Sleeper or whatever Wildstorm animated film? Absolutely. And it might be great, and people might find it and think it's great. Will it sell or move off for the already limited market for those things, whatever that even looks like today? Probably won't move the needle all that much. But would it be cool? It could be. Could totally be done really well and neat,
yep.
Or not. And I forgot what 8 was for.
Well, but the other part of the question was adaptations of Vertigo properties, and there have been a lot of adaptations of Vertigo properties in live action television. There haven't been a ton of animated ones, but there's Lucifer, Preacher, iZombie, Why the Last Man, DMZ, Sandman.
Right. And
what's funny is that like the whole Vertigo of that period was banking on the idea that those amazing comic books would get turned into another property, and almost all of them have failed one way or another. Even the really good ones had nothing to do with it, but like nothing came of most of that stuff.
There was a scalped pilot. I have that script somewhere around here. I need to read it. the ones of those that were successful of that group were basically more universal properties. Like Lucifer's just the devil. You don't need to know much more than that.
Mhm.
Sandman is its own thing, but
Even that,
gaming's very popular. And
yes.
but like, Why the Last Man was a huge failure. Do people remember there was even a DMZ show? Like,
Why the Last Man was great too, by the way.
right, but it was a huge failure.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So it doesn't even matter if it's good, is my point.
There was a Swamp Thing show that people loved that didn't
Not enough.
survive.
Right. So
if people writ large loved it, then Lucifer is the closest you're going to get with that, and that was almost unrelated to the comic book.
And then there was like an entire book based on sort of fairy tale properties that anyone could use, fables, and nothing. They never did anything with it.
They did Ever After.
That wasn't directly.
I know, but that's why they couldn't do the other thing.
What was the show on ABC that was like basically
Ever After?
fables?
That's the one.
Was that Ever After?
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to say about adapting these, I'm thinking of The Authority and Sleeper, is that I suspect, and I am absolutely biased, that a great portion of the value of those stories as they currently exist is that they are comic books. Authority brought back and inflated a type of comic book that we, had not seen or experienced in some time, and have, in a way, not equaled since then. It was like, here's what a superhero could be right now. Huge deal. Shockwave. Sleeper, not a huge shockwave. But what it was one of those first examples of sort of taking some of those wacky characters that came out of the Image boom and like, what if we did a really cool, straightforward procedural drama? It was a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And we make that out of these characters, really show you we can, do something with it. And the fact that it was a comic book and that sort of long form thing in that golden age of, 25, 30, 50, 60 page stories that people got to write, that novel thing that we got to do back then, that's its value in that form. You take that and you just make it into a movie or maybe a mini series or something like that. It doesn't work the same. Then it becomes much more normal then, if that makes sense. Like the fact that they did those stories like that, it's called widescreen comics because they took the sensibilities of movies and put it in comic book form. And we live in a world where that has been done in the opposite way. And so it does not have the impact in the same way.
Yeah. The whole point of this, that Josh is saying, is whatever comes out of this is going to be a compromised version of what made it popular in the first place.
And therefore, like, it isn't going to have the intent of the original. It will have shades of it, but it will not provide that same satisfaction. Are there exceptions to this? Yes. The HBO Watchmen series is an exception to this, but it is much more the exception than the rule. Yeah. And even that was kind of a whole new thing on its own and incredibly improbable.
It wasn't based on a comic. It was based on a comic property, but it wasn't based on a comic story that had been told before.
No, but it was based directly off the comic book. It took place after it, using everything that happened in the comic book as reality.
Oh, I mean, I think the Watchmen show is one of the great, comic book based shows out there.
But it's absolutely an anomaly.
It wasn't adapting a story that had already been told. It was telling a new story in a world that we didn't know.
And in a way, that is doing what we were saying that those comic books that we're referring to were doing. That's what the Authority did. That's what Preacher did, is they went, no one's ever told this kind of story in a comic book, and a comic book is the only way you really can tell this type of story. And that Watchmen show did the opposite. No one's told a story like this in a TV show as a straight continuation of a story that existed in a comic book and taken in this way. And I think that's what makes it work, because it has to do with the intention of the thing and the original form.
The problem, I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, the Authority characters work because they're a commentary on the other comics, and so the only way they're going to work in film probably is just people just really like the characters. But ultimately,
which is possible,
because
Deadpool
Batman
is a bit of a commentary, or at least turned into one. It wasn't originally,
and we'll see. The only way to know is to see the execution. But we're not talking about that. The point is, there could be animated properties of Wildstorm after the live action stuff if it proves popular. Otherwise, there won't be, because there's not enough people who know about them. Same with We 3 or anything else. Because those particular movies are sold to the hardcore fans.
I could see like I could see. I'm sure there probably was. I could see like a We3 feature being made. That
I could
could
see like
be
a We3
popular.
animated short.
Yeah.
But I also think I think there might not be something I would have a harder time watching.
Oh, yeah, I'm
we
not
were
watching
talking about animal people being weird at the beginning of the show.
Sure.
We3 is universal enough they could do it, but there's such a big landmine.
It's homeward bound with cyborgs.
Yeah, but you know what it doesn't have? It doesn't have Frank fucking Quitely.
Right.
No matter what you do, it doesn't have Frank fucking Quitely. You know?
Yeah, but you can have good animation.
I know you can, but it makes it harder. Like to me, and you know, I'm a comic book purist, but the special sauce and the magic of it is that it is a comic book and it's done a certain way, and that's why it works. Some stories are malleable, can move around. You know, I never know, but you know.
Well, the thing about comics is the budget constraints are gone, right? There's no budget constraint for a comic. The constraints are time and talent.
I don't think there's budget constraints in movies in that sense, like there used to be.
I don't. There still are with the animated straight to video, straight to streaming.
Yeah, all
movies
this stuff has budget constraints.
I get it, but it's a lot less than it used to be in terms of what kind of visuals you want to present.
But I still think it matters.
Oh my god, that's the opposite of the case. There's so much more budget constraint than there used to be.
Because budgets are smaller, I guess. But
yeah, and time. Everyone's getting worked to death. I mean, this is not the industry now is not what it was 20 years ago. Interesting question, Wes. Thanks for writing in. We want to hear from you. Contact@ifanboy.com is how you can get on the show. And also our Media Blood show. Put that in the subject line. That's how you do it. And quickly, past month we had a Deadpool Wolverine show. We had Justice League Crisis Infinite Earth show, part 3 show. We had our Media Blood show last week. We talked about a bunch of movies. This coming week, after this show, will be our Booksplode review of Lone Wolf and Cub Omnibus Volume 1. And in September, we will have Watchmen Part 1 review that's animated. And then we have a Josh's Talksplode, where there's a target in his sights, but has not yet been taken down, so we can't say who it is.
Ooh, the human target.
I have written confirmation.
That's like Josh has the target on the bogey, and it's making the noise, but he hasn't pulled the trigger yet.
Well, here's the thing: is that
Connor,
Red Leader
I was gonna say Connor just turned off his targeting computer.
Red Leader had the exhaust port
the sound
locked.
of the missile lock.
You know, like Red Leader, he had it. Did Red Leader have a name?
I'm sure he did.
You know, and he missed it. It's just impacted on the surface. So
Red Leader was Garvin Dreis.
I've never heard that name.
Yeah, because it wasn't used in the movie.
Fair.
Garvin Dreis. Dreis.
Even if it wasn't used in the movie, like I've heard a lot of things that happened after the fact. You know, like
Fred Garvin.
Dr. Evazan wasn't used in the movie either, but I know him.
So anyway, there'll be a Talksplode, and then there'll be another Media Splode in September. Thank you.
Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to say, and it is this. Ponda Baba. That was what I wanted to say. Just because I like saying it.
You're part of
You'll be dead.
I don't like you either. You can find our over 1,396 Ponda Baba shows over at ifanboy.com or wherever podcasts are sold, or no. Follow us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram to find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. Sometimes you get the best of the week in panels over there. Individually, we are CS Kilpatrick, J.A. Flanagan, and Ryan Haupt over on Instagram. I'm done with that part. I was quick.
Subscribe to youtube.com/ifanboy, where you can find all of our old video shows and this show as well. Every week we post this show there. And consider writing a review or leaving a star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Those are the 2 top places people listen, but also anywhere you listen to your podcast. If there's a place to leave a review or a rating, please do. It helps people find the show. We thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Josh can go to bed now. My name is Connor.
I'm Ryan. Ponda Baba shows would also be PBS, which also needs your support.
This episode is brought to you by the Ponda Baba Group. He doesn't like you, and I don't like you either.